Alright, boys and girls, it is time for another sprint zone, so let's get the party started. It's been a while since we've had the full sprint zone due to road closures. We had an alternate route, but the construction has indeed been finished, and it's fresh pavement, and it'll be my first look at it, and good times are going to be had. Looking at the posse today, it is a good turnout. You'll notice off to the lower right there, hanging back with me, is Curtis. Hasn't been around in a long time since there was a crash a couple years, well, a year ago, I guess. Looking in front, we see Marcelo wearing his nice kit for the IPG. Got John reaching into his pocket for something, no doubt fueling up for the melee to come. Everyone is staying pretty much to the right of the line in good order, respecting the road and settling in for what will be the first sprint zone in a long time. And here is a little bit of a stop here. At this point, I'm thinking, well, at this point, I'm thinking I need to make sure the camera started. I had some issues with the camera like shutting off, so I fall back here a little bit to straighten out the helmet, and everything looks good. So here we go. You never know really who's going to take off early, so I was a little concerned that I might be wasting a few matches trying to catch up here, but it wasn't horrible. Now, typically, I like to be at the front. In a large group like this, over those S turns, it's really a big mistake to be back this far, especially if some of the big men try and attack. And there are big men here today. Byron Besserell, of course, one of the strongest here, Steve Hyland, and newcomer John, who I just met on the SOAR ride, that Saturday's other ride, and he's really strong. I believe much stronger than I am. He should probably be doing TTH. So as I move up a little bit, we see Byron chatting with John to the right of him, and I suspect that this is not just chatting about what is to come, since it's its first TFR, but also collusion about an upcoming attack. But more about that later. Looking behind, we see Strongman, Curtis way at the back, Marcella, who's been flexing really hard lately, Michael and John, solid contenders, and I believe it is Carl's Green First City getting some advertisement here. Everyone's pretty well ordered, and it's probably because I made a little speech about not attacking before the S corners. It would be okay in a group of like racers or people who practice this, but there's really no need to crash here where we're going into somewhat of a blind left-hand corner and pushing it here, it's just not really safe. We can leave that for the TTH ride. That's the Tuesday, Thursday ride of legend for those of you who are not in Colorado. But I digress. Now we are heading down towards that corner that I just mentioned. Everyone's in good order. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't really like being back here that far. My only consolation is I see Byron back here, so I'm not that concerned. My plans for the day are really not to do anything because I've got a short track race coming up in the evening. And not that the short track is like an A-level race, but I really want to have, something to be able to complete that without having to walk up any of the little steep run-ups. That being said, sometimes those plans just go out the window. Everyone makes the corner nicely, and Hernan made somewhat of an attack here. Maybe he didn't hear the speech, or I wasn't quite certain how he got off the front here, but no one is taking chase yet. Well, for a couple of reasons. He's not a GC guy yet. Everyone's in order. It looks like it's either Steve Hyland or Brian up front in the yellow jerseys with the stripes, keeping a good tempo, keeping Hernan in check. And now we see the decisive move, like when Byron and John start moving off the front. I'm somewhat boxed in here and not really looking to do anything, but I'm hoping that people would at least keep these guys in check. So here's a really hard attack right here, and this was the decisive moment of the day. We see John in the pink leading Byron, and he went really hard to the point where this just fractured our group. I'm not certain why Dean didn't stay on the wheel there. He let a huge gap open up. And this is going to be making more work for the rest of us. And usually Dean's pretty good at surging, but maybe he was expecting more people to come around. At this point, the game is in fact a foot early, and I am way back, way back, and thinking to myself, I don't want to be back here. This is awful. But given my plans for the evening, if I was really planning to do something, I'd be up front. So I'm sitting behind John, and John lets this huge gap open up. A good rider would have moved out of the way, but he sits there like a cat six. And it's not until I look around that I see the gap and I have to close that, burning more matches than I need to. I'm coming up on Joel here. Joel can't hold Carl's wheel. Carl's making an opportunistic move, not pulling anybody with him, but trying to go up front. So I kind of just take my time and find Dean's wheel. At this point, Dean is in diesel mode and we're pulling back people. We see someone, and this is Scott, who was in a really good position, just didn't have the strength here. And that's kind of unfortunate because he was in good position. Typically, I would have been in that position, and I'm pretty certain I would have been able to hold the wheel of anybody in front of me at least longer than some of the other folks did. So Dean is like pushing hard, burning himself out. Look at my watt; it's sitting in at 250 watts, and Dean gives up the ghost here. At this point, it's my turn to take over, and I've got mixed feelings, like saving energy for tonight and going for it. And right now, I'm just going for it. So we come around, we see Brian, who obviously got shelled earlier. We got Scott, and these guys are able to like hold on to my wheel because I didn't make any kind of huge acceleration, no kind of heroic move to bring people back. Because I'm looking to try to work with people, not just go on a solo um, a binge full of hubris, thinking that I can make the gap when in fact I can't. So I'm thinking I'm keeping it smooth, and I didn't really realize that people are falling off my wheel. And looking at my watt, it's 200-300 watts, and maybe that's why. But I'm not totally invested here because I'm like, I've got a race tonight. I don't know, but I'm in it right now, putting out some watts. I finally catch Hernan, who in fact is probably stronger than I am, like over an hour, but he doesn't train his anaerobic, and as such, when the big moves come, he's not there. But I'm coming by smoothly enough that hopefully people can stay on. So here comes Brian, which is interesting that Brian wasn't on my wheel. If he had the strength to pull me in, and I just let on a little bit, why wasn't he on my wheel initially? I don't know. And you see the rabble back there. That would be Dean and Joel and a bunch of people. And ideally, we'd all be together, working together, but we're not. And this is basically divide and conquer. At this point, John and Byron have basically checked out, and everybody else is just scrambling for minor places. Looks like Hernan recovers a little bit after perhaps I slowed down. Now the three of us are somewhat working together, and sometimes it's a mistake of the newer guys to go too hard when they are working up front. Now, admittedly, I'll do this sometimes because I'm training and I want to push myself and see how much I have, sort of like forced over unders. And if the group I'm working with is smooth, I can get on. Some of the people I've tried to work with, and I'm not naming names here, they just go super hard, and I burn matches just trying to stay on their wheel. In any case, I think life is good here, hanging in behind Brian. He's a super strong rider. I don't know how much sprint acceleration he has, and maybe that explains why he fell off my wheel earlier. But good wattage here, staying on his wheel. And I believe at some point, I don't think the camera's showing it, but Hernan is falling off with this little acceleration. And up the road, I believe it's Steve Highland and Carl. They had gone it along for a long time, so without any real help, yeah, we can see Hernan has been dispatched, but the rest of the group is gaining momentum. There's some strong riders back there. Joel's really strong, Dean's really strong, and I'm just surprised that this kind of a gap opened up, especially when I didn't think I went that hard moving up through the field. Maybe I'm stronger than I think I am, but No, I know my limits. Up front again, chasing people, and it looks like we are about to bring back, I think, Carl at this point. Ah, man, I'm looking at my camera lens. I can see that I got some kind of dust or whatever, and it's not all that clear. Oh well, it's not like this is going to be on the cinema or anything. Anyway, we can see guys behind us a ramming and a thumping and coming hard. And they see us as a target, and they should be able to bridge. Looking at me like 200 watts, mid 200s. So they're putting in a decent effort to try to bring us back. And it looks like, I believe it is Joel, the only one who was able to bridge on this one. Super surprised Dean isn't there. Super surprised Marcelo isn't there. But this is what happens when you get a new guy and everyone is forced to basically time trial it on their own. And if not working well together, well, you get what you get. So Brian takes over. Joel wisely slots in front of Carl, who has burned himself out early with that little acceleration. And in racing, this kind of points out that teams having a team and a team to work with makes a big difference than trying to work with people that don't have the same agenda. And there was lots of individual agenda here today as you saw people sprinting off. And if they would have had the strength to make those moves, really good move. But they didn't. So Joel having his little micro rest after bridging to the group, and I'm gonna sit on Joel because, well, I'm here and I've burned enough bullets, and so anything I save now isn't gonna help me in the race. So we're sprinting to the top. I thought Joel put a little something on, but I said no, 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 that's not having this. I'm taking this little hill, and I'm glad he didn't put up any more fight because that would have been more matches. But just just to throw it out there, I had more matches. Anyway, you can see how it got strung out there, and I believe a good time was had by all. And congratulations to John and Byron flexing super hard and checked out early. There's Byron there, and then we got John, and I believe Steve Hyland was able to hold on for third. And there's some serious horsepower being thrown down when Steve is unable to bridge that gap. And this just shows like working alone, you better be super strong. If Matthew Michaels was here, maybe that would have happened. And I would have loved to have had him in the group, but knowing that he probably would have made the move with those guys, and I'd be, like, lamenting the fact that I wasn't there. But saving myself for the short track, so that's my excuse. And a good time was had by all. Until next time, guys, peace out.